years. I was sentenced to life in prison. And while in prison, I was placed in the Rock at Rayford, Florida. I don't know if you remember hearing about the Rock, but it was the most notorious, brutal, most evil prison in America. Every week on the average, one of us convicts murdered another. Continual brutality and evil. And I was held hostage by terror. The same thing that I had imposed on others. Don't be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap.
Did you put terror on people when you robbed the banks?
I tried not to, but...
Because you were a gentleman.
Yeah, but I was surprised, and I treated the women very kindly and the men involved. But I was surprised, frankly. I think part of that, though, Dorothy, is that I was so deceived. I was surprised to find out that some of them had really been frightened.
Mm-hmm. Did you do it with a gun?
Every time with a gun. Most of the time just showed the gun, showed part of the gun. It was at times a toy gun. And I used a toy gun because that heightened the excitement.
Not even a real gun. I love it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to, when we come back, I want to talk about the spiritual aspect of all that happened to you. You know, we've talked this to show what kind of a bank robber you were at one time, but how God has totally changed your life from this bank robber. It's called Ken Cooper Held Hostage. And it's a story about a man who had all these problems growing up. It's our childhood experiences often that lead us to where we're going, doesn't it?
I'd like to mention some of those seeds when we come back.
Okay, and we will.
Thank you.
You want to just mention a little one real quick?
Well, I don't know why I feel led to do this, but I was sexually molested as a child and by a woman, and I think I expressed my anger toward women by taking a hostage at a bank occasionally.
And did you slap him around?
Oh, no, I was
because you were a gentleman.
And kind, but nevertheless, I took control of their life.
And that would be because of what happened to you as a child. You have to be very careful what happens to your children and guard them and protect them with your life, because something just like that has really changed the life of a growing man. We're going to talk more with Ken Cooper when we come back. Held hostage, a serial bank robber's road to redemption. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
To some, Ken Cooper was an ideal citizen, devoted to his family and community, with a high-profile job at a local Christian college. However, under this polished exterior, Ken was dealing with the guilt of a broken past. Ken Cooper had once been known as the gentleman bank robber, a name he inherited as he fulfilled his addiction. In Held Hostage, Ken reveals his tragic and unique past as a bank robber, his days in a Florida prison, and finally, the road to redemption. Learn of God's powerful love through the pages of this book. Held Hostage is available for this buy-the-book offer of $14.99. Simply call 888-725-8033 and request offer number 254. That's 888-725-8033. Request offer number 254. Buy the book today. If you would like to receive your copy of today's edition of Buy the Book, please be sure to call 888-725-8033 and ask for today's offer number on the screen. DVDs are $14.95 plus shipping and handling and come with 4 total episodes per DVD. Order your DVD of Buy the Book today and call 888-725-8033.
Welcome back to Buy the Book. We've been talking with Ken Cooper, who once, because of many things that happened in his life as a poor child, decided to become a bank robber like his uncle Jesse James. And he did it for the thrill and the adrenaline until one day he got shot. Where were you shot?
Right here. You may have meant the town. It was in Tampa, Florida, but the bullet just missed my heart.
It just missed your
I
heart.
was this close to hell.
Wow.
I know what I've been saved from.
Wow. So now you go to the hospital, you get in jail in Florida at the Rock, which is a horrible place.
Right.
And the first night you're there, what are you thinking?
Well, you see, in jail, on the way to prison, I was born again in jail. That's when I was set free. And I went into prison a free man because Christ was in my heart. And what I'd remembered from my childhood, after I became saved, I remembered that a spiritual being had spoken to me when I was 10 years of age and told me I would be a preacher like my Grandpa King. And I'd forgotten it. But then after I was saved, I realized that, okay, I'm going to prison, I'll be a minister in prison. Well, I got there, they put me in the worst place in the nation, all these murders, rapes. One of my best friends in the chow hall, right across the table, stabbed to death. And so I was in terror. I was in really horrible hell. And so when you're in that kind of circumstance, I think that we become, God becomes someone that we want to protect us, and we become more dependent on God. And so
You read Psalms 91
I just
every
told
day.
him I wanted him to be my shepherd 24 hours a day.
And any close calls? Anything happened to you?
2 or 3. There was a contract on my head. They confused me with someone else, and so I was supposed to be murdered, but I wasn't.
Thank God.
Amen. But I'd be in heaven today, so
Yes.
I have mixed emotions about that.
But you wouldn't be able to tell your story.
No, and that's why I do this. It's painful to relive that darkness and all of that confusion and bitterness, anger. But the good news is that God never wastes anything, so He's using anyone who has had any of those kind of problems that I had. That's who I minister to.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
In the prisons, in the jails, on the streets, a parking lot attendant in Chicago the other day. When I came back to my car, he shook my hand and he said, "Thank you for being so kind to me." And I said, "What did I do?" He said, "You spoke to me and you talked to me like a human being."
Yeah, isn't
So-
that sad?
Yeah, it is. But see, in our busy lives, that's the way we live. And I'm not that way. I don't take anyone or anything for granted now.
No, because you've been close to death.
And I've been deprived. I saw a really good-looking tree yesterday, and I appreciated it.
How long were you in jail?
Only 3.5 years,
And what were you sentenced to?
99 years.
That's right, you said that. So only 3.5
Took
years.
3 major miracles. We really don't have time to explain all that. I do hope people will read the book.
Because it's in the book.
Oh, sure. And they'll see that when God has a plan, He works it out according to His design.
Can you tell me one of those miracles?
Yes, the judge who retained his jurisdiction or authority over me for a third of the sentence signed away his jurisdiction because of the prayers of the people who felt that I was born again and would never be a threat to anyone again and would indeed be a minister. He signed it because their prayer was that he would sign it, not knowing what he was doing, which I said, I don't know if that's a good prayer or not.
Wow.
But he signed it, and then the system slowly but surely worked me out as a man from a newspaper. A newspaper publisher met me and came in and went to bat for me. Very powerful man.
After all that you've done, all the bank robberies, and yet God still shines His light.